Today, we're going to be looking at a brand new map for the 2028 election based on my friend SoCal Strategies' newest national polling for the election. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And go ahead and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another video like this one. Looking at the brand new polling that was released just a couple of, not even 2 days ago or a day ago at this point, we can look at the crosstabs for this and we see that Gavin Newsom leads JD Vance 39-37 in a preliminary 2028 matchup based on our latest poll. And we can see that really the place that Newsom gains the most from Trump's 2024 performance is really the 18 to 29-year-old category. He gains a significant amount with the 18 to 29-year-old group, a group that our polling found Trump actually won by 5 points against Harris. And if you look at the plus 65-year-old vote, you actually see Vance improves on that compared to our 2024 polling, where we actually ended up predicting a Trump +1 national popular vote environment. So Vance does a little bit better with older voters, and he does significantly worse with younger voters. Male voters are basically tied 50-50 or 40-40, really. And female voters are leading for Newsom by 5 points here. You can see Newsom, though, is only winning 56% of the black vote, which could be a signal for the Democrat Party, and it could be a major problem for them heading into the next election. But Vance is sitting at about just 10%. So it is still, very early. Hispanic voters, you can actually see as of right now, it's about a 46 to 30% margin. So Newsom is currently beating Vance by 16 points with Hispanic voters, which is like a 12-point shift away from Trump's performance from the 2024 election. Newsom is also winning the Asian/other vote now, and Vance is only winning the white vote by 8 points. So again, there are a lot of undecideds. It is still very early, but it is quite troublesome that Newsom is leading JD Vance in the national popular vote. We can also see that Vance is barely winning voters without a college degree. Newsom is killing Vance with those voters. We could see more of Trump. You could see more of Harris's 2024 voters stick with Gavin. And actually, 6% of Trump 2024 voters in our survey ended up voting for Newsom in the survey. And we actually even see 2024 non-voters, 60% of them are still undecided, which is a lot of the undecideds. But you can actually see that a majority, not a majority of them, but like a plurality of them are actually breaking into the Democrat column for Newsom by about 9 points here. And we see people who voted third party in the last election are actually heavily breaking in Newsom's favor. So that's also another interesting tidbit there. And we even see that Newsom is actually gaining more Democrats than he is. JD is gaining Republicans. But Vance is winning more Democrats than Newsom is Republicans. So that's also kind of an interesting thing there. And we see with the independent vote, Newsom is clearing that by about 9 points in the survey. So again, looking at the map here, you do have about a D+2 national environment, which is similar to 2016. But with Vance underperforming the most with Hispanic and black voters, it's still a close election because of the fact that it is just those groups that are really shifting away. I mean, Vance only loses like a point with the white vote. So it's not like he's losing that much with that group. It's really the lower propensity voter that Trump got out that he's really, really struggling with. That is his biggest issue. But looking at the safe states for JD Vance, Utah still there, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska, except for if we actually look here, the first congressional district, I believe, is under a 12-point margin for Vance, so we're going to leave that blank. Oklahoma is in that safe column. Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, and South Carolina are all in the safe Republican column. And Iowa, Ohio, Kansas, Texas, Florida, and Alaska are no longer in the safe column. They are not in the 12-point plus column for the Republicans anymore in this matchup. We can see now in the safe Democrat states, California is still in the Democrat column. It is about a 3 points more Democrat. Vance does a little bit better in the raw vote in California than Trump did. but Newsom is cracking 10 million votes in California based on the polling data that we got. And we applied this to an existing model that I have for 2028. So this isn't just me plugging in stuff. This is like a county by county model that, based on the shifts in the polling that we got, this is the map it produces. Oregon and Washington are still in the safe column, but they do shift left. Oregon by about 3 points and Washington by about 2 points, give or take, is kind of the shift that we're seeing right now in those states. So definitely there is a little bit more of a shift with the Hispanic and Black vote than there are white voters. We see Colorado is a 16-point win for Newsom. So that's actually 5 points more Democrat than what it was last time. And it's even a bigger margin than Joe Biden's win there. So that's actually also pretty crazy. Hawaii's a 25-point win. It's only 2 points more Democrat in this matchup. We also see in the states of Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, D.C., and Delaware, those are all in the safe column, including Maine's 1st congressional district. So those are all in the safe column. Newsom's winning Illinois by 15. He's winning New York by 15.5 points. Vermont by 37 points. Massachusetts by 27. So only a 2-point shift to the left. Connecticut and Rhode Island are much bluer than before. And Delaware is almost an 18-point win here. Maryland, a 31-point win. So it does shift back like 3 points to the left there. But other than that, that does basically wrap up all the safe states for both candidates. But you can clearly see that Newsom in this matchup is in a much stronger position than somebody like even Vance is. Iowa, Ohio, Kansas, Texas, Florida, and Alaska are all going to be in that likely column, including Maine's 2nd congressional district, which will come in at about 6 or 7 points. Iowa comes in on this matchup at about an 8.7 percentage point win. That is about, give or take, 5 points less Democrat, almost 5 points less Democrat than the last election. It's a 4.5-point shift to the left. Ohio ends up shifting 3.5 points to the left. It is only a 7.7 percentage point win for Vance, which is actually, I think, is a smaller win than Donald Trump's win in 2020. Yeah, so that's actually the worst performance in the last 4 elections, would be the worst performance in Ohio. Vance won the state by 6.6% in a Senate bid just a couple years back. So that is a very interesting tidbit to see there, that Ohio is similar to Vance's Senate margin there. So that is something to keep in mind. Texas is about a 9.9 percentage point win. So it's a 10-point win. Newsom cracks 5 million in the state. Vance retains 6.1 million voters in Texas. If we actually looked at the raw total votes in the state of Texas in the 2024 election, Donald Trump ended up getting about 6.3 million. So pretty much like 200,000 people switch from Vance to Newsom. That's basically what happens on this map, essentially, in the state of Texas. And then in Florida, Vance is winning the state by 10.2%. There's a little bit of some reversion there. Newsom picks up some support from Harris, and Vance loses a tiny bit from Trump, like about 100,000 votes. So he's still winning Texas, Florida by somewhat comfortable margins. And Kansas is only an 11-point win on this map. And Kansas with Johnson County has definitely been a major concern for them. And you can clearly see it is narrowed up. It's closer than a lot of the other states on the map as of right now. So that is an interesting analysis there for that battleground. Not a battleground state, but it is something to keep note of, that it is significantly closer than what it was not that long ago. And looking at the likely Democrat states, well, actually, Nebraska's first is also in the likely Republican column. New Mexico, Minnesota, Virginia, New Jersey, New Hampshire, and Maine at large, as well as Nebraska second, are all in the likely Democrat column as of right now. We can see that Minnesota, a 7.3 percentage point win. So very similar to 2020. New Mexico, about an 100,000, almost 100,000 vote win for Newsom there. So he's winning that by 10 points. So that's a 4-point shift away from him. And then in New Jersey, you see an 8.7 percentage point win. So Newsom only does like 3 points better in New Jersey. And then in Virginia, he does like 3.5 points better in the states, like 100,000 and something votes better. And then New Hampshire, Newsom is actually winning it by 6.5 points, which isn't even as good as Joe Biden's performance. Maine is where Newsom's doing pretty well. He wins that by 10.5 points on the map. So it's looking like a similar map to 2020 in some ways as of right now, but you are going to see in the lean Republican state of Arizona, it is still a 2.5 point win, 2.2 to be exact. Vance actually gets more votes in Arizona than Trump did in the last election, I believe, because on this map, Trump ended up getting like 1.7 million. Vance gets like 1.8 million. So Vance does about 400,000 votes better in Arizona, but Newsom does like 200,000 votes better in the state because of some Democrat and independent support from the poll picking up, as well as the fact he's shifting the Hispanic vote to the left. That is going to affect some of the environment there. So it is in a lean Republican category. And then in Wisconsin, you have a lean margin there. It is over a 2 point win for Newsom. He's winning it here by 2.5 points, which is almost an 100,000 vote win for Newsom in Wisconsin. So that's also very interesting to take note of. Looking at the tilt states, Nevada ends up falling in the tilt Republican column here by just about 0.2%. It's really close, and the margin is just merely, it's barely anything. It's a very, very close matchup in the state. Very, very close matchup in Nevada, but it is ever so slightly falling in Vance's column as of right now. And then North Carolina, the same thing. It's like a very, very narrow margin, but it ever so slightly falls into Vance's column by 0.2%. So North Carolina is actually closer than, well, actually, no, they're about the same margin, believe it or not. Nevada and North Carolina were about the same margin last time, and that's pretty much what we're seeing on this map as well. And then looking at the last three tilt states, Newsom, according to this national poll, is narrowly winning Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. He is winning Georgia by about 20,000 votes. So it's somewhat similar to 2020, the 2020 election. It's actually a little bit more than like 20,000. He's actually winning it by like 40,000 votes. So it's a little bit of a bigger margin, and both candidates get 2.7 million. So Vance actually does better in Georgia in terms of raw total votes than Trump did, but Newsom just gets the turnout really high in the state. And then Michigan is about 2.8 million voters each, and Newsom just edges out Vance by a very, very narrow margin of like 80,000 votes. And then in Pennsylvania, Newsom edges him out there by about 60,000 votes in the state. And Vance actually loses ground in Pennsylvania from Trump in terms of raw votes. So that's also something interesting to point out. I think in Wisconsin and in Michigan, Vance does like a little bit better than Trump in the raw votes. But in Pennsylvania, Newsom actually technically is doing better in this state compared to the other states, despite it being the closest one still. And again, because the white vote didn't shift that much back towards Newsom, that's why you're still seeing Wisconsin being the bluest out of the three, because the vote isn't really budging. And so because of that, you do actually see Wisconsin still there, and Michigan and Pennsylvania, the black and Hispanic vote didn't move enough to the left for it to kind of offset the order of how the states vote. So Pennsylvania is the closest state on the map, technically speaking, in terms of like the ones that go blue. So realistically, if you were to actually look at the vote margins, technically Vance would pick up Georgia first and then he'd pick up Pennsylvania. It's also possible he actually gets Michigan before he even gets Pennsylvania. But again, usually, guys, the Rust Belt states all vote together. And given Georgia's leftward trend, that's why you would see this like very, very narrow win for Newsom in the Electoral College. As of right now, based on the poll, again, do I think Newsom wins the Electoral College? On my own analysis, no. I actually think that Vance ekes it out and loses Wisconsin, but he ends up getting the rest of the states. But according to our national poll, Newsom is winning in the popular vote against Vance, and it is a 2 point win, and he is narrowly carrying Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, which gives him the presidency. So if you guys did enjoy this analysis and this content, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.